Now, the way workers work in StarCraft ever since Brood War is they actually can path through units as long as they're mining. They don't have any collision. They just move through any other unit. They can't move through buildings, but they can move through units. And this is a really cool mechanic. I'm actually going to show you guys a little piece of history here where this mechanic got used in a very famous game in Brood War, which I particularly like because I used to copy this in in the early days of... So we've hopped on YouTube here. I used to use this in the early days of Brood War. I didn't really follow in the early days of StarCraft 2. Sorry, in Wings of Liberty. I didn't really follow Brood War. I apologize for the graphics. This is a very important finals. It's an OSL finals where July Zerg won his golden mouse. Everyone thought he was over the hill. He was an old man. He was shit. July Zerg, obviously famous as one of the biggest cheeses of all time. And he was playing Best, who was a macro god. And he wrecked him with a 6-pool and then defended a counter proxy gate cannon rush after the 6-pool in game 1. This is game 2, where he then does a speedling drone pull using the same mineral walking mechanic. And, funnily enough, yeah, it actually worked. Best was so thrown off that in the third game, July Zerg basically, he just ripped his face off in a macro game. So what he does is he makes it look like a normal Zergling opening, and let's get to the point where it actually happens. That'll be just here. So he's pulled almost all the drones after making it look like, yeah, I've got Zergling speed, it's not the most economic opening, but I can't do anything. And you'll notice that Best is relying on a Zealot and a Dragoon, basically a Stalker, walled off between these two assimilators. It's a bit of a weird map where you have these assimilators creating a wall. But what's going to happen is, if you think about it, normally the whole Zealot and Stalker and a choke point work. It works because you've got Zerglings going in one at a time, right? And even if they break through, by the time you break through, the Protoss has so much time to, number 1, get more units out, number 2, pull probes to clog the gap, number 3, build buildings to block the gap. Now, in this particular scenario, Best makes a really stupid error, and his Zealot's slightly out of position, I believe. I don't understand the Brood War mechanics as well as someone else, as other players, so they might say that actually, you know, the drones glitch it. But what we're going to see here is the drones are going to push through, and they're actually going to get behind the units by doing that mineral walking. So he's clicked on the minerals inside the main base, and these drones are then going to attack the units from behind, not only killing them quicker, but also blocking the space so that pylons, gateways, can't be put down behind to block off the wall. If that happened, he'd be screwed. Now, luckily, we see some Zerglings coming through here, that blurry bunch of pixels, because this is an old VOD. And they're actually going to slide through, because the Zealot realized he was a bit far forward, and I think he had enough surface area for 3 Zerglings to hit him. So he tried to pull back to a more narrow part of the choke, and he does actually let 4 Zerglings slip in, which basically just ends this. The drones come through, they've just like mineral walked their way through, popped out on the other side, Zerglings flood in, and the game's over. I always think of that game because it's just such a funny creative use to actually win such an important game in a finals of all places using that same mechanic. And that same mechanic carries over here into StarCraft 2. And yeah, so let's hop in game, and I'll show you guys some of the ramifications of that. So we've got a lot of drones. Let's imagine it's just a normal base worth of drones, roughly. Okay, so they can notice how they all clump up. They have no pathing, right? Whereas if you try to move a drone past another drone when they're not doing that, notice they kind of shove each other out of the way, right? They kind of push past each other and so on. So in this particular scenario, what we're going to be looking at is a few different techniques. So the first thing is, this is useful for rush defense. The first thing you can use is, if there's a whole bunch of Zerglings in your mineral line, you can use the pocket trick. Let's just send our meters to deal with that. Now the pocket trick, just checking that's okay, yes it is. Ow. Is where you grab your workers and you make it so the enemy doesn't have surface area. So notice I'm clumping them there, and then notice there's this tiny gap. And by continually clicking here, there's only space for about two Zerglings to hit the drones at any one time. Not only is there only that space, but if I quickly attack move, every single drone will attack. So you will one-hit a Zergling. Meanwhile, they're doing very little damage to you, and then you're one-hitting a Zergling, and then you pull back. One-hitting a Zergling, pulling back. One-hitting a Zergling, and then pulling back. So Zerglings will always take a horribly cost-inefficient trade if you can put all of your focus on this. This is pretty advanced micro. I don't expect most players to be able to do this. However, what about when an early rush comes in of Zerglings? And say you can't do the pocket trick, say you just want to fight them, or you want to get back to mining, you don't want to just hide. You normally have a lot more drones than they have Zerglings in the early stages. So what you can do is you can actually try and surround them. And if you force the Zerglings to actually take a direct engagement, so if you force these Zerglings to take a direct engagement, they're suddenly going to be screwed. So what's going to happen is we're going to say, run away. The Zerglings come in, attacking, and then what you can do is as they get to the middle of the mineral line, you click on the other side, and then you A move. And notice how those Zerglings got surrounded for the most part. Obviously, we didn't time it out perfectly there, but look at that. So obviously, if these were enemy Zerglings, our guys would already be wrapping around them, you'd be surrounding them, and those Zerglings would die so damn fast. So against about 6, 8, sometimes even 10 Zerglings, if you can get that full surround, that's a great way to do it. So often what players do is they see the Zerglings coming in, the Zerglings like doop, 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 doop. And you can use this with Terran and Protoss as well, exact same mechanic. We're just showing it as Zerg because I obviously know a little bit more about Zerg. And then as they go there, you wrap around, A move once you're on top, because your drones path right through those Zerglings, and then when you tell them to attack move, your drones suddenly have collision size again. They suddenly start blocking units, and the Zerglings end up being surrounded. So that's one really cool way to use it. Another way is, what if you're getting attacked? So say the Zerglings are like this. I often see like units come in and start attacking the workers, and this guy's like, oh shit, run away. Sorry. So he just goes, oh shit, run, run, run. And check this out. They're all like, oh, trying to get past. Like they're all dying as they go past. On the other hand, if you mineral walk your workers away, so if I go, oh, run to that gas. Oh, sorry, that gas is finished. Are there any more minerals on this map? Yeah, okay, so let's say I run down there. You'll notice they just path directly through the Zerglings. So here we go. I'll show you one more time in that case. I'll put a camera location down here to make that easier. They just go straight through the Zerglings and they escape. And often they stack on top of each other as well, which makes it very hard for your opponent to focus down individual drones. It means a lot of your drones end up getting bruised, but for the most part, they will end up surviving. So that's actually a very helpful thing to know as well. That's most of the things that mineral walking helps with. It's something which is very important to keep in mind. Also, attack priority. One last little trick. You can actually defend yourself by doing hold position. Now, the thing is, drones, if they're not actually fighting, units will always prioritize attacking fighting units over attacking the drone. So if Zerglings are coming in and you put your drones on hold position, these Zerglings, check this out. That's what's going to happen. So the enemy Zerglings will just run in circles, and at most 1 or 2 Zerglings will attack it at a time. So if they're not watching really closely, then this is all that's going to happen. If they are watching closely, the best they can do is they got to go attack, 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 attack. They got to queue up these attacks on all the drones, and even that takes a very long time. So these are incredibly small little micro tweaks that make a massive difference to different situations. So you can use that with SCVs wrapping around a bunker against Zealots. I've actually seen games won because of that, especially back in Wings of Liberty when we had a lot more situations like that. You can use that with probes as well. You'll often see when a Protoss is defending an early rush from Zerg, they use their probes and they hold position them around their gateway units so that the gateway units can't be surrounded and focused down. One thing we didn't really talk about was focus fire in terms of micro. One last point